Hello, everyone. My name is Aaron Chodakal, and welcome to my presentation on gratitude rituals and using them to reframe your mind. To introduce myself, I am a high school mathematics teacher. So for the past 9 years, I spend most of my days with between 25 and 35 16-year-old young men and women. Now, when people hear that, they think I must have some kind of Zen-like quality or the patience of a saint. And I want to let you guys know that when I started this job, that was not the case. I really had to hone those skills in order to be a better educator. And in fact, I realized that it's part of my role as an educator, not just to teach my students content objectives, but to help be a mindfulness mentor for them. I realized in my experience working with these students, many of them did not have someone they could look up to in terms of making rational decisions when maybe we're kind of in a negative thought pattern or things aren't really your way. Many of my students were very reactional. I wanted to show them better ways to respond to some of this negative stimuli. But what I was starting to realize was how often I was responding to my negative stimuli. I was often embarrassed at how frustrated I would get in class or frustrated I would get with my peers. And I would often say and do things that I really regretted. Oftentimes I would say things to students or do things or maybe say something in a tone I didn't really mean to students who looked up to me as a mentor or students who looked up to me as an educator. And those were things that really embarrassed me. I would say things that, kind of hurt relationships that we have. And I didn't want to be that type of person because I had spent so much time learning to cultivate my mindfulness through yoga and meditation. Being a teacher, I thought of myself as being someone who was patient, yet I was reacting almost in the same way as my students were. And I needed to figure out one, why this was happening, and two, how I could fix it. Now, what I was starting to realize in these times where I was having this lack of clarity or acting outside of my true self is I was really responsive to stimulus that was right in front of me. I was only focused on a very teeny tiny section of my life. I was kind of like when you're stuck in traffic, it's so hard to focus on anything besides the traffic that is in front of you. Now, just like this image here, we often frame our lives in these little teeny tiny frames. Look at this picture, right? This picture is just a picture of trash. And when you see a picture of trash, it's so easy, for someone who loves the outdoors like myself, so easy to get really, really frustrated and get angry. And again, maybe say or do something I didn't really mean. So what I wanted to do, since I realized this was my problem, is I needed to figure out a way to help take a step back and see the world for what it really was and see the world in its full entirety. So what that allowed me to do was figure out a way, well, how can I reframe my mind? Instead of focusing on these negative things and responding to just those negative things, how can I take a step back from that and see all of it and respond appropriately? My solution was focusing on gratitude and focusing on the blessings that I had because, well, that helped me realize, even though there are these little things that are bothering me, I have so much more I need to be thankful for. This gratitude really helped me see the world for really what it was and see it for the things that I have versus the things that I didn't have. And it allowed me to kind of hone in on these times where I was being impatient or critical or about to say something I didn't mean or do something I didn't want to do now, or I wouldn't normally do. So, in terms of these gratitude practices, the first one that really worked well for me was my post-it gratitudes. So, what I would do is I'd take a post-it note and write down 3 or 4 different things that I was grateful for at the beginning of the day. This took about 90 seconds, and I would put this little post-it note at the bottom of my monitor, whether it be at my home office or at school. And when I would catch myself getting frustrated or starting to feel this, anxiety or anger coming up, I would look at that post-it note and meditate on those things that I was thankful for. On these lists, I would write people who I was thankful for, things I was thankful for, places I was thankful for, times I was thankful for. And seeing those things made me realize that this frustration that I may act out on wasn't me. So I started to make these practices a daily thing. Now, not only do I just use Post-its, I have some other rituals I'm going to share. One of my favorites is actually writing thank you cards. Now, these thank you cards, again, I write to people close to me, students, my peers, my superiors, to things, to places, to times. Like I said earlier, they don't need to be delivered. Often I don't even give them to the person. It's really just for me to realize all of these things for which I'm thankful. Now, often I will give them to the person because letting someone you know that you're thankful for them can also help boost their gratitude practices and also help boost their self-esteem. So it can be helpful. But in terms of my own practice, I just like to see them. Because again, once I see something in front of me that is this negative stimuli, I want to be able to take that step back. And sometimes seeing what we write out, the power of putting pen to paper almost changed the way my brain worked. It allowed me to see not just this little thing that was in front of me and kind of kept me from saying these embarrassing things or saying these things I don't mean to my students, these people who look up to me. And by practicing gratitude, it allowed me to essentially be my truer self and act more along the lines of my true morals. So I hope you guys found these rituals helpful, and I hope that you can find ways that you can apply these rituals throughout the day. Because not only is this going to help you with those little road bumps you reach, that pile of papers, that email from a parent, the email from your boss, or the text message from your partner, you know, those things can be frustrating, and gratitude practices each day help us deal with those. But if we continue these practices, they can help us deal with even larger traumas we may face later in our lives. You know, being grateful and understanding what we're grateful for helps us be better people. And I hope these practices will help you be your true self and have actions that align with that. I hope you guys all have a great rest of the day and stay grateful.